We were back on the bus for our final travel day, going from Carlingford down toward Dublin. But on our way toward Dublin, we had a stop to make rather early in the morning. This was the day that we were doing the gin tour. And this was another thing on the itinerary that I was actually not that excited about, but it ended up being very interesting. Windy and cold. This is a small family-owned distillery, and they've only been open for a few years, but they have done some very interesting things. And I love the fact that they put so much work and so much passion into creating their product. You really feel like that comes through. This is not just a distillery, it's actually a gin school. So you can come and take classes and they teach you how to make your own gin with your own little still, and you can play around with all the ingredients on the table. It was so interesting to hear about the method that they use to come up with the flavors. We also learned that making hand sanitizer saved this business when they were closed during COVID.
One in the corner, my name is Sarah. First of all, has everybody got a gin and tonic that would like one? Shite? Okay, we're all good so far.
And florals. Now, even if you were making a spicy gin or if you were making a floral gin, if you're making a spicy gin, you'll still put in some florals, okay, and the same the other way around.
Barn ales, right? When the people who came to design the label saw that we had the two barn ales, and they thought it would be a great idea to have the owl on the bottle.
The staff here was incredibly informative, and you can tell that they just love their job. And I think we had the best gin and tonic that I've ever tasted. The gin that they make is so refreshing, and the flavor is quite amazing. So just doing really neat things there with that small family business. We got back onto the bus and started making our way down toward Dublin for our last stop of this trip. As we got into Dublin, it was still too early to check into the hotel, so our bus driver did a tour of the city, showing off more of his amazing driving skills, but giving us a good overview of what we might want to look at over our day in Dublin. And some of the interesting things that he showed us were the fact that the doors of the houses in Dublin are kind of a big deal. The different colors that people paint their doors. It's kind of a fun thing that they do to make their house a bit different. This is the hotel we were staying at, the Grisham Hotel. And as the trip went on, our accommodations got a little bit fancier every night, which is kind of neat. And it was in a great location in the city to be able to walk everywhere. So it's always nice when you have that easy access of just walking out the front door of your hotel, going in any direction, and being able to see the sights of Dublin.
That's the River Liffey we're crossing there now, folks. And the Dublin people have nicknames and everything. They call that the Sniffy Liffey. Directly in front of you is Trinity College. You have three universities here in Dublin. You've got Trinity College, originally built for Protestant people only. Anybody can go in there now. You've got UCD, University College Dublin, and DCU, Dublin City University. Now up here in the middle of the road you'll see a statue of Thomas More. He was a poet. Museum, if you want to go in and have a look at that.
We were there. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We got to see the famous Halfpenny Bridge. It used to cost you a penny to walk to the other side of the river over that bridge, and we started to scope out some coffee shops. It was looking pretty good for our Dublin portion. We drove past the Guinness factory, and unfortunately we did not have time to go on the tour. I've heard that is very fun. But we were getting the lay of the land, and our bus driver dropped us off at the hotel so we could put our bags in the room. It wasn't ready quite yet, so we headed out to walk around the city and try to kill time until our rooms were ready. We got some coffee at a nice coffee shop and then started to kind of wander aimlessly around the city to try to get the lay of the land. We ended up going down toward the waterfront, and we stumbled upon the Famine Memorial. And this is definitely something to see. It's one of the things that we're interested in learning more about in terms of Irish history. And right across the street there is a Famine Museum. If we had more time, we really would have liked to have gone in there. It talks a lot about how many people left Ireland during that time and their mode of transportation, which was known as a coffin ship, which is this ship right here. Again, if we had more time, we could have gone on a tour where you can actually go onto the ship and see what the living conditions are like.
The crane's moving.
The crane? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of construction going on.
Lots.
One of the main purposes of this trip was to help people with Irish ancestry to feel more of a connection to that heritage, and I think this trip definitely had that effect. This is the Famine Museum that we really debated whether or not we should go see, but we decided that we wanted to spend our time walking around the city and exploring more.
I'm observant. They'll ask me to find something.
Here at all.
We grabbed a quick little lunch and then made our way back to the hotel, hoping that our rooms would be ready and we would be able to check in. So now you get the first view of this nice hotel. Definitely not our normal accommodations, that's for sure. Hopefully our room is ready. We finally got our room. This is the smallest of all the rooms, and unfortunately not much of a view unlike the other rooms, but it does have a heated towel rack. That'll be neat. I've never used a heated towel rack. So little older fixtures, and the shower looks interesting. There's a lot of things going on there. I like the rain showers here. I'm not really a fan of them, but yeah, heated towel rack. There's the room. Hopefully Pat makes it to dinner. Patrick squeezed in a quick nap before we got dressed and headed out into the city at night to find some dinner. This was the night where we were on our own to go out to eat. This was a Thursday night in the city, and one of the things we found funny about Dublin was the sidewalks were fairly busy, but there didn't seem to be any organization of you should walk to the left side or you should walk toward the right side. So you're constantly weaving around people.
We can cross over now if you want.
This way.
Yeah.
You had to pay pretty close attention, especially as you got to some of the busier areas, that you didn't just walk into people. But we were heading toward the famous Temple Bar area, and even though we didn't go into Temple Bar because it was quite busy and possibly a bit of a tourist trap, we wanted to go to the older part of town, and we were looking for an Irish restaurant to have dinner at. One of the other things we noticed was that there were a lot of younger people out and about. A lot of them were going to the bars, but then it also seemed like there were a lot of younger travelers and just people going to work. There was a very young, active vibe to the city. For dinner on this night, we got two things that we wanted to try while we were in Ireland. Patrick got a steak and I got the Irish stew. But they're really not joking when they talk about meat and potatoes. There's the Temple Bar. I feel like we got to at least walk past it. Oh, we lost your dad. We walked past the Temple Bar, but confirmed that it was very busy and looked like mostly tourists. So we took some pictures and then kept going. We were heading back toward the hotel because we were definitely starting to get tired, but the city was beautiful at night. It was just a lot of work navigating the people and the traffic and the streetcars and all of that kind of stuff. But they do a very nice job decorating for the holidays. And we were right next to this famous sculpture, which is just like a giant spire. But we headed back to the hotel room to go to bed. And then we got up the next day to enjoy a good breakfast before a full day of exploring Dublin. Today is our last full day of the trip. Today's Friday, and it's our free day to walk around and explore Dublin. When we got here yesterday, we walked around and just kind of got the lay of the land and tried to figure out what we wanted to do today. And luckily it's another nice day. We've really been super lucky with the weather on this trip, but we're going to start with the Book of Kells because that's one of the big things in the city, and it gets busy later in the day. So we wanted to kind of cross that off the list first and then figure out where we want to go from there.
And with the Book of Kells, you can order everything online, your tickets, and have a reservation to make it speedier and easier for you. So we got a 10:30 reservation.
They recommended reservations because it does get busy. Everything that I read said that it gets busy later in the day, so we wanted to kind of take care of that first. Yesterday was a lot about just acclimating to being in the city. It's kind of overwhelming when you've been in the country for a while and then you come into all this activity and getting used to being in a rather fancy hotel. But we were so lucky to have this absolutely beautiful day to just walk around and see all the sights and the beautiful architecture of Dublin. Another neat thing about Dublin is that you hear so many different languages being spoken. There's a lot of people from other parts of Europe that come over to work and live in Dublin, and I totally understand why. It's such a neat city. Train. It seems like there's a very strong public transportation system in Dublin. A lot of these trains going by, lots of buses, and then you also have tons of people walking, scooters, e-bikes, a little bit of everything. But it makes the downtown area very accessible. I'm sure if you lived here, public transportation would be helpful to move around and get to work and all the different places around the city. We thought about going on one of the hop-on, hop-off tourist buses that you can find in the area, and it goes to all the major sites around the city, but we decided to walk instead just so that we could go at our own pace and stop when we wanted to look at something or take pictures. And we had been on this bus tour for quite a few days, and we had been definitely indulging in some vacation foods, so walking was a much needed source of exercise at this point. And I think by the end of the day, when we had made our way around the city, we walked something close to 7 miles. So definitely got our exercise on this last day. But since we knew we were going to be on a plane for pretty much most of the day tomorrow, we were just happy to be outside, getting fresh air and some exercise. We made our way onto the campus of Trinity College, which was founded in 1592, making it the oldest college in Ireland.
Oh, Professor.
There was some sort of a graduation ceremony going on, so we saw quite a few people walking around in their cap and gown. We made our way into the exhibit, and there's a room with some information about the illuminated texts and why the Book of Kells is so important and special. This area we were allowed to film, but when you go into the area with the actual book, you are not allowed to film. So I'll show you a picture of it instead. In this stock photo, you can see the actual book is kept in this dark, temperature-controlled room to keep it safe. The book itself is written on calf skin, and they turn the page once a day so that every page gets an even amount of exposure to the air and the light. So they're very serious about preservation here, and there's actually a person in that room watching you like a hawk to make sure that you don't take out a camera or do anything that you're not supposed to anywhere near the book. But as you come up the stairs from the Book of Kells, you're brought into the library, and this is one of the centerpieces of Trinity College. It is full of these old books, and there are people working in the rows to clean and preserve the books. You also have these important artifacts from Irish history. You can see pictures from what Ireland used to look like, different historical events, and they have the oldest harp in Ireland, which is the symbol of Ireland. After seeing the illuminated manuscript of the Book of Kells, we made our way back out to the streets of Dublin and continued walking around. We came up to this Christmas market, and it looked so neat, but the workers told us that it wasn't going to be opening until the next weekend. So I bet this would be really cool. If you were in Ireland a little bit closer toward Christmas, you can see these European-style outdoor Christmas markets. But we were making our way across the city to the area with some of the cathedrals, and specifically we wanted to see St. Patrick's Cathedral. On our way through the city, we walked past the Christ Church Cathedral, which is an older and smaller cathedral, before walking a few more blocks toward St. Patrick's Cathedral. Just behind the cathedral is a beautiful park with a little cafe, so we were scoping out our options for lunch as we headed around to go into the cathedral. The entrance fee for the cathedral was €8 per adult, and that included the audio guide, which is on a little handheld device that they give you, very similar to what we did at the Giant's Causeway. I love these audio guides because you can move around at your own pace and you get to learn a lot more information, even if you're not really into reading all of the text and all of the informative boards that they put out. You can just listen as you walk around and learn more about all of the different things that you see inside the cathedral. I'm glad that we were able to see St. Patrick's Cathedral. Even if you are not going to Ireland for the purpose of seeing religious locations, they really emphasized on the audio guide the fact that they want people of all faiths or no faith to come and see the cathedral and to hear the message of peace that they are working on. Because Ireland is a place that has seen a lot of conflict, that is the central message that they want to convey. People from all over the world can come and see and enjoy all of the work that has gone into creating this spectacular cathedral, and most importantly, taking away that message of peace. St. Patrick's Cathedral is a large Gothic architecture cathedral. It was opened in 1191 and it has a height of 225 feet. It is the national cathedral of the Church of Ireland. St. Patrick's Cathedral has these beautiful large stained glass windows. But you can see how the inside of this cathedral looks and feels very different compared to Down Cathedral. One of the notable things in St. Patrick's Cathedral is that Jonathan Swift is buried here. He's the author of Gulliver's Travels. When we were done walking around the cathedral, we went around the back to this nice park area, and they have a little cafe where we were able to grab lunch. It was fun to see the locals walking around. Some of the kids were on lunch, and they would come and walk over and have their lunch in the park. So you get these little glimpses into what it's like to be a local. After a quick lunch in the park, we slowly started to make our way back toward the hotel. This was our last night of the trip, our last night in Ireland, and we had a group event planned. We were going to be getting onto the bus and heading just a little bit outside of Dublin to a restaurant and banquet center. And the idea was that You get to listen to Irish music, see Irish dancing, and have a big meal with everybody for our last night together on this group trip.
Oh boy. Oh dear Lord. Imagine when he comes to me home all the way back. About silent night.
Yeah, that is Lord.
I'm jamming today. Horses.
Oh,
saw horse
horse-drawn carriage, yeah.
Yeah, saw that.
Oh, okay.
It was Friday night, so Dublin was very busy. There were lots of people out walking around. There was quite a bit of traffic, so even though we weren't going that far outside of the city, it took quite a while to fight through the traffic. But we got to see some of the sites that we walked past during the day and see them at night with all of their Christmas decorations lit up.
It's a dinner show.
The venue that we were going to was up on the hill on the outskirts of Dublin, and it was located in a historic building. This was recently renovated, and the banquet hall is in this big open room where they host large groups. There were another group there from Australia, and you come for Irish night, which is all about Irish food, Irish music, and Irish dancing. So the full cultural experience.
I'm gonna borrow your soup. Thank you. Oh, yes. Action shot.
Patrick got the Irish stew, and I got the ham and turkey. Dessert was this very yummy apple tart, and of course dessert would not be complete in Ireland without an Irish coffee. The musicians and the dancers did a great job. We were quite far in the back corner, so we didn't have a great view of the stage, but they were doing some audience participation, which is not really our thing, so we were kind of happy that we were back in the corner. Of course, no trip to Ireland would be complete without getting to enjoy some Irish dancing. It's such a unique type of dancing, and especially if you remember the time when Lord of the Dance was really popular, it's fun to see this in person. This was a great way to cap off our last night in Ireland, but we weren't ready for the night to be over just yet. So when we got back to the hotel, we went to the pub just down the street, and we had such a fun time listening to live music and just enjoying the atmosphere. The pub scene is so much fun, very different from being at a bar in the US. It is 6:30 in the morning, Dublin time, and it's 1:30 in the morning at home, and we're getting ready to go. Unfortunately, we just put our bags out to get loaded onto the bus, and we're getting ready to head down to have a very quick breakfast back onto the bus and back to the airport. So the good news is that we'll get to see Redford today, but we're definitely sad that this trip is over. I think this was probably the most fun trip that we've been on, just because of the company that we have. This is a very fun group, and I do hope that we get to do this trip again, because they've been doing it yearly for like a really long time, 20 years or something. So hopefully we also get to make this a yearly thing, because I think there's a lot more for us to see in Ireland. Hopefully next year we get to see a little bit more of Southern Ireland, but it was really great to explore Ireland for the first time, and hopefully we get to come back soon. We were sad to make our way back to the airport. This trip went entirely too quickly, but we were looking forward to going home and seeing Redford. Thank you so much for joining us on this trip to Ireland, our first international trip in quite a while. As we got ready to board the plane, Ireland had this grand finale for us as there was a huge rainbow that spanned the entire airport. I couldn't have come up with anything more beautiful to end our trip in Ireland. Thank you so much to our subscribers and our Patreon members. Your support and encouragement is why we continue to make these videos. Thank you so much.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again,